One letter addressed to the public, the other to the president. Martin Amidu, the Special Prosecutor, has tendered in his resignation. We bring you the inside story with three people who've been following the issue with great detail. Stay with us.
Morning. I just sent you Airtel to go money from my new number. We delivered 2 healthy kids last night. Congrats. Have you heard? Kwesi has
2 kids. Have you heard?
My son has 2 kids. Abazi. No. Now your sister almost 7. Have you heard the news about the missing chicken?
Have you heard? Get free calls and free Airtel Tigo money transfers for 6 months on new Airtel Tigo SIMs. Get a SIM.
Ghana goes to the polls on December 7th, and City TV gets to work. From 6 a.m. on December 7th, bringing you all the action and reports with our correspondents covering all 275 constituencies. Be assured of exhaustive and definitive coverage of Ghana's 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections. Our team of seasoned journalists will dissect the issues and give minute-by-minute account of the election. Bernard Avler, Vivian Kai Loko, Kojo Akoto Boate, Nathan Kwa, Frema Edwinyame, Abena Nyameche Ampedu, Umaru Sanda Amadu, Zoe Abu Bedru, Nana Tufo, the Election Bureau, Ghana's election covered. Coverage starts at 6 a.m. on December 7th on City TV and 97.3 City FM.
Welcome back. So tonight on The Point of View, we will bring you the inside story of Martin Amidou's resignation. I have 3 of the very best to delve into the issue. In studio, I have Umaru Sanda Amadu, who is my colleague journalist. I was with him when the story actually broke. Sanda, great to have you.
Hello, Bernard.
Great to talk to you. We also have celebrated investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awoni, who's joining us with his insights. Manasseh, great to have you. Good evening.
Good evening, Bernard. A pleasure to be with you.
Fantastic. And all the way from the USA, Professor Kweku Asari, who's joining us via Zoom as well. Prof, great to have you. Good evening.
Good evening, Bernard. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Let me set the scene by giving viewers a quick overview of the story so far with Martin Amidu. He was named in 2018. He got his letter this year. He resigned before the year ended. Here's Ni Ayukwe Okan's report.
The setting up of the office of the Special Prosecutor was one of the key campaign promises made by President Akufo-Addo ahead of his election victory in 2016 to tackle corruption much more vigorously. The office was established by an Act of Parliament, Act 959, and came into existence on 3 January 2018. The office was mandated to investigate and prosecute cases of alleged corruption under the Public Procurement Act 203, Act 63, and other corruption-related offences implicating public officers, political office holders, and their accomplices in the public sector. The Attorney General, in a letter to the President on Thursday, January 11, 2018, nominated and submitted the name of the proposed Special Prosecutor, Martin Alamisi Benz Kaiser Amidu. Many hailed his appointment since he had carved a niche for himself in protecting the public funds.
Act 959 and the successful appointment of a Special Prosecutor are historic events in our modern history. The Ghanaian people have in overwhelming numbers denounced the canker of corruption. The Ghanaian people expect the office of the Special Prosecutor to rise to the challenge and to the occasion and collaborate with other existing law enforcement agencies to fight relentlessly and help eliminate corruption in our public life.
Government laid the Special Prosecutor Regulations 2018 in Parliament in November 2018 to give effect and make the office functional. Ironically, the man who had been appointed as the Special Prosecutor cited in the Special Prosecutor Bill some possible lapses in a 25-page paper critiquing aspects of the bill. He questioned why there was a clause that sought to limit the Special Prosecutor to specific crimes. According to Martin Amidou, neither he nor his deputy has received any emolument since their appointment. Months following the setting up of the office, Martin Amidou was vocal about the lack of resources for his operations.
We have set up an office. We have to organize that office, have the requisite personnel. It doesn't take one day. My law says that 90 days after the assumption of office of the Special Prosecutor, pursuant legislation must be enacted. As we speak today, I have no legislation. So I use my common sense. The law says I can coordinate with other organizations. So I coordinate with the Auditor General. I coordinate with Yoko. I coordinate with other anti-corruption bodies so as to find a way by which we can begin to work towards the ultimate end.
The 2019 budget statement allayed the concerns observers had with respect to funding of the Special Prosecutor. The office was allocated the sum of 180 million cedis ahead of 2019. Martin Amidou started work with legal processes against the Boko Central MP Mahama Yariga. He accused the former minister of tax evasion in the clearance of vehicles and illegal transfer of foreign exchange from Ghana to Dubai, without having the required license to undertake such transaction. While investigating Mahama Yariga, he was hit with a suit from the former Deputy Attorney General, Dominic Ayini, over his eligibility to hold such an office. Dominic Ayini contended that Martin Amidou, being 66 years of age, was too old to hold public office, under which the Special Prosecutor's Office falls. He argued in his writ that any other interpretation would result in an unlawful amendment of Article 199 of the Constitution by legislation. Using the same sections of the Constitution, he held that no person above the age of 65 years is eligible for employment in any public office created under Article 190 Clause 1. After a careful review, the Supreme Court in May 2020 ruled that Martin Amidou was eligible to hold such a public office. Perhaps one investigative piece that also got many talking about the office was his corruption assessment report on the Ejapa royalties deal. The report recommended that the deal be reviewed and sent back to Parliament for proper scrutiny. It also said that the process of selecting the transaction advisors was flawed. Days after the report, the presidency also issued a statement asking the finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta to resend the deal to Parliament as suggested by the report.
So that was Ni Ayikwe report. So let me start with Umaru Sanda Amadu. Around 5:15 p.m. I was with you when this story, actually 5 o'clock. You went on air at 5:15. I was on radio, you were on television.
Yeah.
So how did you get the story? Of course, you can't tell me all your sources, but just quickly, because you've covered Amidu more than most journalists, and you've had the most conversations with him. So any surprises there? How come this story broke today?
No, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. Let me tell you a few things that led to what happened today. I'll give you the backstory. But two things culminated in the resignation today. The last but one straw that broke the camel's back is the Ejapa royalties deal. When he did that work and how he was quote unquote frustrated, and to use his word, he said he was held hostage by the presidency. That was the first thing. The second and the last nail that was driven into the coffin is the death of President Rawlings.
Seriously?
Yes. Rawlings' death on 12 November is the final nail that was driven into the Martin Amidou coffin. It is the reason he left.
Did he state that in any of his...
If you're holding the press release, look at the last page.
Okay.
Look at the...
Okay, yes. The events of 12 November removed the only protection I have from the threats and plans directed at me Okay.
So he said
he
that...
did not mention the man's name.
Yes.
But he was referring to Rawlings.
Yes, the death of Rawlings was on November 12th.
Okay.
And if you read further, it tells you that there were deaths and whatever. Now,
so the events of November 12th removed the only protection I had from the threats and plans directed at me for undertaking the Japan royalties transaction anti-corruption assessment report.
So let me help you there. The protection there is Jerry Rawlings. If you continue, he says that he's ready for death now.
Fear is the enemy of change, and I'm prepared from the vacuum created on 12 November to meet the threats of my demise as the price to pay for serving my country without fear of favor, affection, or ill will.
Now, a lot of this information I'm giving you is based on personal interactions, observations, and public documents that this man has been releasing over the past 2 years since he became Special Prosecutor. Some of this information may be subtle, some is evident. This 12 November issue he refers there, and I can say to you that it is out of respect to President Rawlings, the man who gave him his first job as a public officer, that he did not name him in there. Indeed, he is bereaved, perhaps one of the most loyal PNDC, AFRC people, PNDs rather, members who still stuck with Rawlings to the end. Almost everybody who started with Rawlings left him midway or at the end. Martin Amidu stayed with him to the end. If you have more information, you understand how President Rawlings is involved in his appointment and all the work he's been doing.
So he really trusts Rawlings.
He trusts Rawlings so much.
So the death of Rawlings, he said he removed the only protection he had. But in the content of the letter itself, he refers to the Ijapa deal and the work he had done in the president's response.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So when he did the Ijapa work, and then he tells you in that report, and there are two information we're working with tonight. There's a public press release that he issued.
Okay.
Which is what you are holding there.
The public press release.
Good. There's a direct letter he wrote to the president, which we have cited.
Both dated 16 November.
Today.
The letter to the president is 4 pages.
Yes.
The press release is a page and a half. Both were released today.
If you look at the fourth paragraph on the second page.
Of the letter to the president.
The letter to the president. I'm going to read. More importantly, Your Excellency was acting as a judge in your own cause in pursuing my functions to take any independent follow-up actions on the anti-corruption assessment report when you knew from my 13-page letter of 16th October 2020 conveying the conclusions and observations of the anti-corruption assessment report to you that negative anti-corruption assessments had been made against the conduct of your office in the procedure adopted in granting the executive approval dated 24th March 2020, and your assent of the Minerals Income Investment Amendment Act on August 2020 intended to retroactively impact the parliamentary procedure or approval of the transactions documents on August 2020.
He's directly accusing the president.
Yes, he is. And his point is that he referred the report. Ideally, he's not supposed, and if you look at the publication he did of 13th November.
13 pages.
Yes. So the 13 pages was a conclusion or summary of his Ijapa royalties
report.
He wrote this, he delivered this to the president, and he says here that he did it. If you look at the press release, he says that he did it because the president is the chairman of the national security system. Ijapa royalties, he believes, has national security implications because he...
So he wasn't reporting to the president. He was sending it to him as a matter of courtesy.
As a matter of courtesy. And he said when he gave it to the president, he gave the president time to announce it to the public. 2 weeks, nothing was happening.
Good.
That was when he decided to issue a press release and tell Ghanaians that, Ghanaians, I did my work. I finished 2 weeks ago. I gave it to the president. Up to now, the president has not spoken. So I'm letting you people know that I'm done with my work.
But he also further on goes on to say that the president tried to sort of, as in the letter the president wrote to Parliament sought to undermine the work he had done or something.
No, he's referring to a law. So there is a law on the Ijapa royalties deal, known as the Minerals Income Investment Amendment Act 2020. Yes. This act came into force on 27th August 2020. This was after the Ijapa had gone through. So his point is that you have created a law which you expect to act retrospectively.
Fantastic.
You don't go to Parliament, get the deal done. When Martin Amidu then wrote a letter to Finance Ministry and asking that I want evidence to show that you have this law, they told him that the law existed. And when he wrote to the Ghana Publishing and all the appropriate institutions, they did not provide him with that information. The letter eventually proves, or the document proves, that the law was passed after the deal was signed. And he says that is wrong. And so that's why He's talking to the president directly and saying that what the president did was the president acting as a judge in his own cause.
Okay, so you said two things. You said the Ejapa deal, which the man has said was the main issue. Then Rawlings's death was the final death knell. I'll come back to you on the series of publications he's made, because most of them you get first before any journalist gets them. But let me just pick initial thoughts from Manasseh first, and then Professor Azam. Manasseh, thanks for joining us. On radio this morning, you said you were surprised Mr. Amidou was still at post and that he hadn't resigned. Did you have a premonition that he was going to resign this afternoon when you said that in the morning?
No, I am not one of those prophets. I just believed he had stayed too long in that position. And when I met him this year, not long ago, I asked him directly, why are you still at post? Because I felt that Martin Amidou's reputation, he had built a reputation. Some of us looked up to him when we started doing this anti-corruption thing. I was still in journalism school when he was doing his exploits. So we looked up to him. So for him to have sat down for all that he had built to go down the drain, I felt it was too much. And some of us knew some of the things that were not public. So I was surprised that he stayed this long. If you remember last year, the Ghana Integrity Initiative held integrity awards. 5 personalities were selected. Martin Amidou was not selected, but some years back, if there was one Ghanaian that was to be selected for any integrity award, it would have been him. And this did not happen because he had done anything bad, but he accepted a position that appeared as though his hands were tied, things were not happening as they should. And he was not jumping and getting out of it. So that was my problem, and I felt he had stayed too long. In
the video we aired before the interview part, you heard him say that because of the difficulties he was facing, he was using common sense, and that he was collaborating with the likes of Iyoko, Shraj, and the Office of the Auditor General. So it already suggests that he knew he was in a position where frustration was going to be characterized by his job. So it's not as if he didn't know that this was going to happen. If you listen to that voice clip carefully, he was basically saying that I'm doing the best I can. So what's, in your view, what accounts for the change all of a sudden? Because he knew that he wasn't going to have his freeway from the beginning.
Well, there's a proverb that says that hunger that has hope for its satisfaction does not kill. So if you're hungry and you know that one day you get food, you can survive. But when you get to the point that you realize that there's no hope for me, that hunger can kill so easily. So I think Martin Amidou, from what I know, after this Ejapa deal, got the realization that going forward, this administration is not committed to the fight against corruption, which some of us have been talking about since day one. And without the presidency being committed, there was no way Martin Amidou was going to succeed. When he was appointed, I did an article titled "The Craziest Presidential Appointment." And in that article, Bernard, let me just read 2 short paragraphs.
Good.
I said to the president, Martin Amidou is your best appointment. His appointment is your greatest achievement. His appointment is your strongest statement yet that you are committed to fighting corruption. But that's not enough. The battle has only begun. Appointing Martin Amidou will be meaningless if he does not get your support and backing. His office needs to be funded. His office will need to be independent to function. And you are key to the success or otherwise of that office. Tonight, we are hearing that the independence Martin Amidou needed, he didn't get it. And there was no way he was going to succeed. I believe that if the president is committed to fighting corruption and grants the other bodies independence, we may not even need the office of the Special Prosecutor to do this fight or to be the only hope against fighting graft in this country.
Do you think he should have accepted the appointment?
Yes, he should. if I were him, I would have also accepted the appointment, unless, of course, he was a prophet too, or he knew more than some of us knew, because I genuinely believed that President Akufo-Addo would be different, and that the message of incorruptibility, the no-nonsense approach, was anything to go by. So some of us believed, I specifically, they say don't trust politicians, but I had some amount of trust in President Akufo-Addo's commitment to fighting corruption.
Let me come to Professor Kweku. Watching the situation from your Florida base, what do you make of it? Are you surprised at this turn of events, Professor Kweku?
Bernard, I wouldn't say I am surprised, although I would say I'm both saddened and disappointed. I'm not surprised because the frustrations of the special prosecutor over the years have been palpable as pressure piled on him to show that he could prosecute or to show some output. So that pressure was there. And I knew it was only a question of time before the pressure got the better of him. At the same time, I say I'm disappointed and saddened because I don't think resignation under these circumstances is the best way out. Because when you read the letter, it is one where the special prosecutor feels his functions are being interfered with by the presidency. Then I would expect an independent prosecutor to stand his grounds, similar to what the Watergate prosecutor here, his name was Archibald Cox. He stood his grounds and he said, hey, the taxpayer puts me here to be an independent officer, and I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to allow anyone, not even the president, to interfere with my job. And if I found certain things that I'm not happy with respect to the Ajapa deal, I'm going to do my work in terms of continuing investigation, in terms of prosecuting if it becomes necessary, but I'm not going to allow anyone to push me out. If you have seen wrongdoing and your response is to run away from the wrongdoing, then you are not doing the people's task because the people put you there. They anticipated that some of these wrongdoings would occur. And when they do occur, they expect you to fight it. When you read the letter, Bernard, you would also see several things at play. Cultural, institutional, administrative, and I think we will talk about all of these things, but we should also drop some proper lessons going forward, because certain things that happened surprised me. I was, for instance, surprised that the president is able to invite an independent officer to the presidency to discuss a report that, in a sense, implicated the presidency and some of the ministers that the presidency has appointed. That should never happen, because right there, independence is compromised. At least the appearance of independence is compromised. And independence, in fact, as Mr. Amidou suggests, was also compromised in this case. It will be like the president inviting the Chief Justice just before the Supreme Court is about to issue a decision on the election petition or something like that and say, hey, come here, let's have a talk. That should be a no-no. Similarly, just before the Electoral Commission announces the results of an election, the president should not be able to invite the chairman of the Electoral Commission or any members of the Electoral Commission to come to the presidency for a discussion.
But in the letter, it says the president invited him to his office in the evening of Sunday, 1st November. So your point is he should have told the president politely, you have no business inviting me to your office.
Yes, but the president himself should have restrained himself. He should not have invited him, knowing that such an invitation, once it's known, will be perceived as manipulating the special prosecutor. So this is why I was saying culturally, in our culture, we feel that I am the special prosecutor, I've written a report, so I should send one to the president and wait for the president to say something before I release it to the public. That should not happen. And I know maybe you would have the opportunity to talk about the Auditor General, because when the Auditor General releases a report, he sends it to the speaker and he publishes it immediately on the website. And there has been some discussion as to the propriety of this. Why are you releasing it to the public when the big men have not seen it? So that cultural mindset has to be reformed, it has to be resisted, it has to be changed.
We'll come back to that. This is the point of view. My guest, Umaru Sanda Amadu, who broke the story at 5:15 p.m., Manasseh Azuri Awuni, who's been fighting corruption as a journalist, and we have Professor Kwekwasari. We'll do a build-up again, because apart from the death of President Rawlings and the Japa deal, Umaru Sanda says there have been build-ups, and in fact, in some of the epistles and commentaries of Martin Amidou, there have been hints of this. He will show us some of those when we come back. Plus, where does this leave the Akufo-Addo government's anti-corruption claim? We'll be right back.
During tough times, we need a competent leader we can trust to keep us all safe.
Nana gave me free water when I needed it most to keep me clean and safe from COVID-19.
Nana gave me lower cost of internet during COVID-19 to operate my small business from home.
Nana told us to trust him to keep our children safe from COVID-19 when we sent them back to school. Nana was right.
Nana gave me free electricity in my hour of need during COVID-19.
Nana told us to trust him to keep Ghana safe from COVID-19.
In Ghana, the law enjoins all drivers and passengers in a moving vehicle to wear a seatbelt. No excuse is good enough for not wearing a seatbelt. Seatbelts that are fitted in vehicles are adjustable, so please adjust it to suit you. Let it rest as close as possible to the body. As a driver, before you drive off, ensure everyone else, especially children in the vehicle, have fastened their seatbelts. The airbag is not an alternative to a seatbelt, because in the event of a crash, only the fastened seatbelt will stop a passenger from being thrown far forward. So buckle up. Stop road crashes now. Stay alive.
This road safety education is brought to you by the National Road Safety Authority.
The winner of the World Luxury Hotel Award for Best Luxury Riverside Hotel is the Royal Senchi Hotel and Resort, Ghana.
dear my bro. Sa double track system with the upgrade one. Did I don't cry to me?
Sir John Mama ni NDC. Edin kunim December 7th elections here. Etu obetra.
Na me titin say no wiem say you Ramahama Samba. Any free SHS no betwem.
Enya no krebra. John Mama ni NDC. And the basic community day senior high schools. And the shares have free SHS yase. Na fa e den ade ono ade aba no. Wo besan betwem. Your person why ya say oba be yi sa double track system yi every ho. Wo hye nkwala na de suemu kina. E ma ni tumpon. Me de e me de kura ne say sa activate no. Technical and vocational education training no. E no so be free.
Say they asem de teacher Emilia. So what we say you Ramahama Samba. Double track system yi obetumi to ase.
Eye koko kura ma no. John Mama any NDC. And about be anopa ni area school no. Every primary any JHS. And when want to mean yet, teacher Suleiman can be being 430 private senior high schools in Ghana. It to me fat a school for 200,000. 200,000. And your mama so buy obesi community day senior high schools, Maku 46. That's actually 50 years here and on Wendy. And Nana Akufo-Addo buy we're training your 1 pound to us. You're cunning in our bomb. It to me ye double track system everywhere.
Teacher Emilia, me dem to me train you. 7 December back. Number 2 John Mahama any NDC. One more number 2. Na sa traffic light double track system here. I was said food chat.
Tuma John Mahama ni NDC. Ama ejuma ni inkoso aba ama yenina.
Welcome back. This is the point of view. Today we're looking at Martin Amidou's resignation from the Office of Special Prosecutor. He communicated same to the public in a 1.5-page letter. He also wrote a 4-page letter to the President explaining his reasons. My guest, Umaru Sanda Amadu, who broke the story on radio and television on CTFM and CTTV today. Manasseh Azori Awuni, award-winning investigative journalist who's freelancing, and also Professor Kweku Asari, who's, well, what do we call him? I call him a polymath. He's a professor of accounting, but he's into the public space. Let me come back to Umaru Sanda in studio. So, you're saying any close watcher of this situation shouldn't be surprised at all. What have been the key highlights of Amidou's frustration culminating in this, apart from Ejapa and the Rawlings death? What else has led to this?
So he was appointed in February thereabout. Yes. He took the oath. He went to vetting, spent 7 hours there. You know, remember all those issues. The first thing was, even before his deputy was appointed, the board was appointed, I went to take a tour of his office. This was on March 23, 2018. I published an article on ctfmonline.com at the time, and I titled it, How Resourced is the Office of the Special Prosecutor? And I talked about how he was operating from a 3-bedroom house, which is like a cubicle, how he was having a difficult issue running a special prosecutor office from that place. The presidency reacted, the government reacted and said they were working on it. So I have a red marker here. I'm going to point to you the red flags. March 27, 2018. Special Prosecutor Office will be resourced soon. This Attorney General responding to the initial complaint that the office will be resourced. But this was early, so you could say more room ahead. July 5, 2018. Martin Amidou investigates Freddie Blaze's purchase of 275 cars. That's the first indication that this is not a man who is coming to just attack NDC, or he's going to deal with everybody, right? He himself now starts talking, and he says, my reputation and personality alone can't fight corruption. This was September 2018. Now,
so this is all within the first few months, even before receiving his letter of appointment?
Yes. September 27, Nanado's appointees frustrating my work, Amidu. This was 2018.
Wow.
Nanado's appointees frustrating my work. This is the title of an article.
The letter he wrote?
Yes, he himself issued a statement. Then September 21, 2018, the Auditor General came to intervene, and the Auditor General said, visit Amidu and see if he can be effective. This was after the Auditor General.
So Auditor General added his voice to Amidou's problems.
Good. Ghana Bar Association came on. Ghana Bar Association on September said, resource special prosecutor to fight corruption.
Wow.
They were speaking to the government. Nothing happened. Then, November 9, 2018, Amidou writes, the Whitaker scenario, stifling independent investigative agencies of funds. He was talking about how the OSP in the US, at a point, was stifled of funds. And he was talking about how he didn't have funding at his office. Then the Minister for Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, swiftly acted and announced that $180 million cedis was going to go to the Office of Special Prosecutor. Out of that $180 million, which was trumpeted as a budget, only $3 million was actually released to his office because there was no one to spend the money.
This is still 2018.
2018. Then my office was almost forgotten in 2019 budget. Amidu, January 15, 2019.
Okay.
Red flag. Then another red flag, January 14, 2019. Some don't want my office to exist, but I'll continue to work. Amidu, another red flag. July 22, 2019. Amidu condemns interference in Bisiu's case, says probe ongoing. This is Charles Bisiu, when the issue of the Galamsey issue came back. He said that there were people who were interfering.
July 2019.
July 2019.
A year after he investigated Freddie Blay. July 2018, Freddie Blay.
Then July 16, 2019, Amidu threatens to sue over frustration from heads of institutions. These are public institutions that he said were not forthcoming with information that he needed to prosecute. Because it's a new office, he didn't have a lot of information. So he needs information from police, CID, Attorney General. They said they were not collaborating. July 16 again, 2019, Martin Amidu writes, Special Prosecutors' challenges in fighting corruption in Ghana. This one, he deliberately sat down
and wrote an article. Still July 2019.
And this is page upon volumes of text. Now, there was a time that there was reaction and intervention from government and party. Yabuabina Samoa and Adenta MP, Director of Communication of MP, went to town and said that Martin Amidu was complaining too much. This was July 23, 2019. He said, Amidu complaining too much. Nobody is stopping his probe.
Okay.
Now, this angered Martin Amidu, and he retorted and said he doesn't take directions from party people or party podos. So Babia Samoa had to come and apologize. So that's another red flag that this man wants to work hard. He sued the Attorney General over the judgment debt that was paid by Waterville, which he went to secure while he was citizen vigilante in 2014. He wrote a document announcing that nothing was happening on this. He then, September 5, 2019, another red flag, Amidu takes on CID over scandalous non-cooperation in 50 million case. Now, he was dealing with an investigation, needed documents from the police CID. They were not forthcoming. He put it in writing. Then, July 23, 2019, Martin Amidu writes to Babian Samoa, the Special Prosecutor is not a poodle of any political party. That's another response. Now, these are some of the things that he has done publicly. And let me say to you that this research I've done only ends at July 2019. So between between February when he took this job to July 2019, I've counted as many as 16 red flags.
16 red flags.
16 red flags. If the government was minded, they would have seen this coming. He gave the red flag again, this one in person, to the president when he met him on the Ijapa thing 2 weeks ago, or not 2 weeks ago, but 2 weeks before the information came public. He said, and I'm going to read from his letter to the president on 23rd October when he met the president. He said, I reluctantly agreed to your terms, but gave you notice immediately that I do not intend to continue as special prosecutor because of your interference in the performance of my functions under the law. He is reminding the president in this letter of today that on 23rd October when I came to you, I told you I didn't want your job anymore. Take your job.
Okay.
In fact, people who have watched that debacle tell us that he was a bit of I don't know.
A back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. And he left the Jubilee House.
Let me come back to Manasseh. Sanda, thank you for this chronicle. Manasseh, you've done some significant anti-corruption work within the 2 years that Mr. Amidu was named Special Prosecutor. Now, have your paths crossed at all in the sense that has he had occasion to follow up on anything you've done, or has his office called to check on something you've done to see how you can collaborate? Because he did say he's been collaborating. Within the 2 years he's been in the position, have your paths crossed formally in terms of your work?
Yes, Bernard, it has. I remember before I came out with the contract for sale, I hinted the Auditor General. And what I said was that, look, a journalist can only do his part, but looking at the nature of it, I suspected that those of them who had a part to summon people to answer certain questions beyond what a journalist can do would definitely need to work. So I hinted the Auditor General, who told me he had also hinted the Office of the Special Prosecutor, and they were working on it. So if you read his press release today, in which he spoke about the fact that some work had already started, that intelligence came from me. Beyond that, I had also met him in person when there was so much pressure about the fact that he wasn't working. And I said, well, I knew about some low-hanging fruits on the Judah scandal because a lot of the things were left undone. And so I was prepared to support or volunteer to support his office if he was interested. And I didn't quite get a good response. The excuse at the time was that he had only 1 or 2 prosecutors and that he felt the Attorney General's office was more resourced to have done that, which I felt wasn't right because there are some cases the Attorney General is not interested in, and I've had my own issues with them. But coming back to the contract for sale, I am aware that there was an initial collaboration between him and also the Office of the Auditor General. And so that's how come they were able to go through some of the bank statements and came to a conclusion that in excess of 41 million cedis had been lodged into the account of Mr. ABJ. So
yeah, Manasseh, on that point, I find it interesting that in his conclusion, he suggests that Shraj, for some strange reason, did not give the full amount in Mr. Ajay's bank account. Now, initially, when you started this work, I think there was a report that Mr. Amidu said they were also doing some work on it. Okay, and then you've done the work. Shiraz has also done some work. Now he comes out to release further details. So is it that he's been working on this all along, or because of the success of your work and Shiraz's work, he was forced to issue this before he resigned? Because this letter is dated November 13, but you did this work a bit earlier than this. So has he always been doing this work? Do you know, or is it, what's your comment on the timing of his release of this one?
Well, I can say that work has stalled. Martin Amidou hasn't done much. I'm saying this because the figures he has, those figures were given to his office in October 2019. So more than a year ago, his office, with the help of the Office of the Auditor General, was able to come to the realization that this amount of money was lodged into the account of this man within this period. And this, we are talking also about his private account. Talent Discovery Limited has its official account that also received payments. And when I was looking at the details, I also got the impression that, well, Mr. ABJ was mentioned there, and I saw something like UMB or Zenith Bank or something. So I was also thinking about the fact that, well, if they are minded to also look at other accounts, we may find more than this. So that work stalled. If you read Martin Amidou's statement today, or the one dated
November 13, yes.
He stated somewhere that the work stalled, and as I sit here, I have not even been invited to take my witness statement. When the issue was referred to Shraj, that same week, they called me, took my statement, and requested that if there was something more I had, and normally with investigation, I'm not able to publish everything. So I give the full interviews and other things to Shraj. But more than a year afterwards, he is admitting that my witness statement is yet to be taken. And the investigators went to ABJ's house and couldn't find anything within the 30 minutes.
Yeah, although he complains about the conduct of the investigators, but I think the point he makes is the fact that the amounts lodged in Mr. J's account are much more than Shraj put out. So possibly he's basically seeing this as a useful addition to what has already been done. The fact that the amounts are actually bigger. For the sake of viewers, in his Ghana account, there's 15.6 million cedis, then $4.4 million, and then 54,500 euros. So possibly this release was to correct that misimpression, you think?
Well, I think that it is useful to tell us that there was more than Shraj found, but I also asked my sources at Shraj, and what I got was that they wrote to the Financial Intelligence Center asking for suspicious money that were paid into ABJ's account. And the response they got from the Financial Intelligence Center is what they compiled.
Okay.
So it isn't like perhaps they intentionally left some out. And I'm saying if they are perhaps minded to look at all of ABAJ's Ghana or Cedi accounts. I'm not sure he has only one Cedi account.
Okay.
Because look at the TDL account, there were some narrations that suggested that he has other accounts. So we may end up even getting more than this, and perhaps the monies that did not go through the bank, because he may have taken some cash, used it to buy properties, which would not be captured in this account. So useful information, but I think the most important thing is letting him answer for whatever monies he received.
Professor Kweku Asare, you say you were disappointed and sad. Is your disappointment more towards Amidou or to the president?
I was reacting to Amidou, but of course I'm also disappointed in the president and the presidency. The reason I said I was disappointed with respect to Amidou is if you are a prosecutor and you are supposed to be independent and your independence is threatened, you don't quit because your independence has been threatened. You stand your grounds and then you leave the other party to take an action, for instance, to dismiss you or to send you on an involuntary leave or something like that. But quitting, that is like giving up, and that's why I was disappointed.
So,
by the way, oh, go ahead.
I was saying that some say he was more effective as a citizen vigilante than he could ever be as a special prosecutor.
I'm not too surprised that he wasn't effective. In fact, I told friends of mine on the day that he was appointed, I was in Ghana, and I said, look, I don't think Mr. Amidou is going to be effective for a variety of reasons. But the main reason is we don't seem to analyze things holistically. Mr. Amidou was brought in because the Attorney General's department was assumed or presumed not to be performing. But why? I'm familiar with the Attorney General's department, and I've been writing for several years that it is extremely under-resourced, underfunded, and unable to realize its mission of prosecuting people in the criminal domain as well as in the civil domain, where we have a Solicitor General, and then in the criminal domain where we have a Director of Public Prosecutions. If the Attorney General Department is adequately funded, we wouldn't need a special prosecutor. On the other hand, if the Attorney General's Department is under-resourced and underfunded, it guarantees that whatever new bureaucracy that we put in place will suffer the same fate. It will also be underfunded and under-resourced. You just have overlapping, underfunded, under-resourced bureaucracies.
But then in that sense, why are you disappointed in him then? If you know that the problem is the frustration and the under-resourcing, one man, no matter how powerful, cannot change that.
Yes, but you see, he talked about some of these issues, and as I remember, in the 2019 budget, he was given 180 million cedis.
But all was not released at once. Only 3 million was released. So you can have money voted for you, but only 3 million was available or released.
Well, those are some of the institutional, administrative, and cultural things that must be changed. Because realistically, nobody can perform unless they are properly funded. But don't let us get away too much, because here you are talking about a specific investigation. He did the Ajapa investigation,
yes,
the corruption risk assessment, and the immediate cause for his resignation was that. And for that, he was funded, or at least he was able to do it. And he claims he had evidence that potentially corruption and corruption-related offenses were being committed. You cannot throw these allegations out there and just say you've resigned. That is a no-no in my opinion.
So what was he to have done? The president said he has referred the matter to Parliament to take a look at it again. Should he have gone ahead to prosecute the president or somebody? What's the logic?
Go ahead, because by definition, his job is an independent office. He doesn't take directions from the president or from parliament or from anyone. If he feels that corruption is being committed, then he has the mandate. He has the mandate to go ahead and prosecute it. He has the mandate to go ahead and investigate it. He himself says so in the letter that he wrote.
All right.
So then why are you quitting? You should prosecute and then let the president fire you for prosecuting. Then you become a hero.
Okay.
But you resign just because you have encountered some interference with your work, which you could have rebuffed by not going to see the president, by not treating the president special and sending him an earlier report and waiting for his action, then we wouldn't be where we are. So in a sense, I feel his pain, but I think some of it is self-administered.
Okay.
And right.
I'll take a short break. When I come back, I will look at the implications of this, not just for our corruption fight, because it's 3 weeks to an election. Could the timing be politically consequential in an electoral sense? This is the point of view. My guests are still here. Don't go away.
Antiperspirant with the power of black carbon formula, 48-hour protection from sweat and bacteria for a deep, clean feeling that lasts. New Nivea Men Deep Antiperspirant. Nivea Men. It starts with you. Official sponsor of Real Madrid.
Hi, my name is Salamatu. Yes, these are both me. You see, before free SHS, my life could have taken 2 very different paths. The SHS path depended on how much money my parents had, what sacrifices they were willing to make, and whether they would send me or my little brother Issa to SHS. The other path is what would have become of me if there was no free SHS. But today, thanks to free SHS, my future is bright and promising.
Congratulations, you have a name. It's a boy.
Instead of depending on others, I will stand on my own feet and help my family. Free SHS is where my dreams for a better future and the dreams of thousands of young girls become a reality. Don't let NDC take it away from us. Vote for NPP and give all Ghanaian girls a chance for a better future.
What's the perfect gift for our staffing clients this season?
All your different caliber of staff? Big question.
I don't want to start guessing what each person needs.
And have to worry where to get what for who when.
Some want electronics, furniture, clothes, others want groceries, crockery, cutlery.
Hey, how can you tell?
She's a magician. With the Malcolm gift vouchers, everyone can get what they want. Remember, you can get the same bargain prices from any Malcolm shop across the country. Now, everyone can get a perfect gift.
Welcome back to the point of view. So let's end with final comments for our guests. I'll start with Umaru Sanda. Where does this leave our anti-corruption fight? But you wanted to make a quick reaction to...
Yes, I wanted to react to Professor Kweku Azari's comment about him not resigning but staying on and fighting hard.
Yes.
But how do you fight? You see, the man is called Special Prosecutor, but he doesn't go to court to prosecute anything. He's just supposed to be the man who runs the office. Strictly speaking, he's not the guy who goes to court. How many prosecutors do you need? How many prosecutors does the Attorney General's department have? How many people have the Attorney General or has the Attorney General prosecuted over the past 3 or 4 years?
I don't know Special Prosecutor, Attorney General.
No, I'm using Attorney General, which is already established with police people. You know, all the police people work for the Attorney General. When they catch somebody, they do investigation.
So your point is what? He doesn't have enough?
He doesn't have staff. Prosecutors, he has only 2 prosecutors.
2 prosecutors?
Yes. Then he needs to investigate all these issues, Manasseh's case. He needs to send people to go investigate. He has 3 investigators.
3 investigators, 2 prosecutors.
1 secretary, and the secretary services him and his deputy.
So the whole office is Mr. Amidu, his secretary, 3 investigators, and 2 prosecutors.
Yes, and that's what we
That's
call,
all they have.
That's what we call the office of special prosecutor.
The whole office. So there are 6 people.
And it's a 3-bedroom. I mean, no, there are other people there, but I'm saying that people who are key in running your office.
3
investigators,
2 prosecutors, and 1 secretary, and 1 Amidu.
Yes, and then maybe a bodyguard and a driver or something.
Are you serious?
And then a few people who assist. So these are the key people who do this work, and that's how many we have. And they are all housed in a 3-bedroom
house.
And if I show you the part, he mentioned that he, in the letter to the president, he said the compulsion to use a limited number of seconded staff, and that's another problem. These people I've just mentioned, the prosecutors and the investigators, they are not hired by him, so he cannot fire or
they are on secondment,
either from CID or from Attorney General.
So they could be working at cross purposes.
And he says here that number of seconded staff in a 3-bedroom and boys' quarters accommodation undermine the achievement of the objectives of the office.
Fair enough.
And my undertaking on the oath before Parliament. He says that these people are mostly loyal to their bosses. So if I'm a police person, CID working,
I get you. So they are not fully integrated into his operation.
They are not. He needed a building. He earmarked the 10-story building Get Fund project house or building at Parliament House near the cathedral, the new cathedral that's yet to be built. It's been over a year now since he went to identify that building. They've not done it for him to take over.
So he's still in the 3-bedroom?
He's still in the 3-bedroom.
Right. Manasseh, this is 3 weeks to an election. Could this be of electoral consequence in your view? I mean, for those who are using election as a campaign tool, could this be an influential action?
It could be for those who still had hopes in the presidency of Akufo-Addo to fight corruption. But those whose eyes opened early enough, this shouldn't come as a surprise. But my worry goes beyond the elections. Some foreign ambassadors said last year that those fighting against corruption in this country are being fought, and that's where the problem is. Mahama was terrible in the fight against corruption, but in his era, there was that freedom to fight. Now the Auditor General is gone because he dared to touch Osafo Mafu. Martin Amidu is gone because he dared to touch Ejapa. Those of us who are journalists, if we be truthful to ourselves, it hasn't been easy these past 4 years. So if you cannot fight corruption, at least allow others to do their part. Yes. If you are doing DB Mami DB, allow others to do Kabi Mami Kabi.
Fantastic. Professor Akufo-Addo, you have just 30 seconds to wrap up. Your final thoughts.
I think there are some lessons to be learned here. First, let us not create an office just to tick a box. Before you create an office, think about the logistics, think about the funding that you need, and put all that in place, and then you set up the office. Second, let us not hire people and then wait for 2 years before they are given the letter of employment. Let us not hire people and not pay them for 2 years. You cannot be talking about wanting to end corruption and then starving people of their emoluments for 2 years. That is an invitation to be corrupt. Third, report from independent officers should never go to the president and then they sit there waiting for the president to act before they release the report. The report, once they are available, should be released to the public, because the public pays these independent officers, not the presidency. The last point is, this special prosecutor, it has a 9-person board, and that 9-person board is supposed to help them discharge their role properly and effectively. What has the board been doing?
Good question.
Are we just giving people allowances? It seems to me that the special prosecutor has been fighting this battle alone, and the board has basically disappeared.
All right.
This raises a bigger question. We have too many boards. Many of them are not doing anything.
Thank you, Professor Akufo-Addo from Florida. Is very regularly in Ghana. Manasseh Azuri-Abuni, award-winning journalist. Congrats on your award over the weekend at Wameka. And Umaru Sanda Amadu, who incidentally is Manasseh's mate at GIG.
He was my SRC president.
And Sanda broke the story of Amidou's resignation. Thank you for being on the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. The Voters' Diary is next with Vivian Kailoko. Stay with CTTV.
The Point of View is powered by Airtel Tigo. Have you heard that Airtel Tigo calls from 5 a.m. to 10 a.m. and Airtel Tigo Money